is thinking.
I'm dedicated to it. I can't be stopped.
It's an emergency. We have an emergency. Red light at work. DEFCON 1, DEFCON 3. I'm having the time of my life, and I hope the most important takeaway from any time with your Uncle Ted, which, by the way, I'm going back to the Sunrise Safaris Campfire again tomorrow, every Friday. If you wonder where all this irrefutable, runaway, effervescent, stimulating truth, logic, and common sense comes from, it's because I don't have an opinion about truth, logic, and common sense. I literally genuflect on a minute-by-minute basis at the altar of truth, logic, and common sense because of the information, wisdom, positive spirit, goodwill, and decency that is every Friday, August, September, October, November, with our Sunrise Safaris. Go to tednugent.com and find Sunrise Safaris. They're sold out this year. They're sold out every year. But I represent the heartbeat, the spirit, the pulse, the effervescence of God creating us in his image and likeness that surrounds my Sunrise Acres campfire every Friday, coming up for my birthday in December and New Year's Eve at Spirit Wild Ranch. And joining us right now is another humble servant, Doug Collins of Georgia, the former congressman, Georgia, and now ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. Doug, you know that wisdom, knowledge, information, prioritization comes from sharing life's experiences with your fellow man, paying attention to those experiences, never repeating the mistakes, but implementing the proven methodologies for God, family, country, law and order, quality of life. And I get that from the campfires. And Doug, you represent that. Why did you get into politics? And what are we doing to make America great again here in the last days before November 5th?
Well, Ted, it's good to be with you, and that's exactly right. It's all about family. It's all about God. He's given us everything we have. You know, a little bit about my background. I actually was a pastor for 11 years, went back and got a law degree. He led me that way so I could get into the fight, and then led me to Congress, to the walls up there, where I actually saw that what we're fighting against is a true battle against what I really think is the right way and the wrong way. And I think that's the part for me. And I just couldn't sit back. I mean, I've been in the Air Force for 23 years. I'm a hunter. I'm somebody who is out there saying we've got to keep this American way of life. And I'm tired of people saying that our country is these issues and problems, but yet raising up the other parts of the world. I'm ready for America first. And I've worked with Donald Trump now for many years. I led the Republican response to the impeachment. I fought against Nadler the whole time. And I'm ready to put this incompetent administration, the Harris administration, Biden administration, on the road. We've got to get common sense back in there, and Donald Trump provides that. And we're just telling everybody to get out to vote, starting with our own clan, our own families, and working out as we go forward.
You know, since I became a loudmouth, which is what let's get down to the basics. The founding fathers refused to be slaves anymore. The whole world was run by slave drivers and slaves. If you didn't have the power of the king or the emperor or the Führer, you were a slave to the king or the emperor or the Führer. And the founding fathers in their heart and soul went, it's not right to obey a king who says you can't speak your mind, you can't choose your religion, you can't protest your representatives, and you can't have a freedom of press to be a watchdog over that government. We have the right to keep and bear arms. You talk about it's a war of good over evil. So secure borders would be good. Inviting in the enemies of America and paying them would be evil. It's not just a disagreement. And it's good that only women should compete against women. And it's downright evil to let a man beat up a woman in an Olympic sport. So it's not just a disagreement. It literally is good, conscientious decency versus evil. And the enemies of good, the Democrat Party, they're still the party that would boycott the Civil Rights Act. They're still that party. Who can't see this? When we say make America great again, why would an American call that fascism? Doug, help me out here. I never went to college. I was too busy learning stuff. So I know the answers to these questions. But in your perspective, in the trenches, what would cause an American to call Donald Trump and his supporters, who wants law and order, safe streets, women competing against women, and a secure border? What depth of brainwashing would cause an American to call that fascism, Doug?
Yeah. Well, you've hit it perfectly. This good versus evil issue, and I think this is the part that we miss so many times. And look, I'm a son of a Georgia state trooper. 31 years, my dad was a state trooper. I watched him go out and serve, and I came from a place in which I didn't have the golden hand on me saying, "Oh, you're going to do this and do that." I didn't have the government say it was going to be okay. I had a government in a country that allowed me to come from North Georgia mountains to do what I wanted to do, what I felt God and brought me to do. And when I see what is happening in our country, when I see people who believe that other countries are better than us, that's just a falsehood. That is a lie. America is exceptionalism to the world. Everybody wants to come here. So when you look at this, what they're beating into young people now, and they're beating them into in the schools, in our colleges and universities, that everybody is equal. Everybody should have equal outcomes. I'm sorry, Ted. If there's an equal outcome, it's coming out of my pocket or your pocket to make somebody else equal. That's not right. And when we got a border, now I know a lot about the border and looking at it from the perspective of we don't know what's actually happening. And I'm sick and tired of Vice President Harris telling me that she has a plan for the border. No, she has a plan to keep it open, and make them legal. And that will destroy the very fabric of who we are. A country without borders is not a country. And worse yet, we don't know who's coming through those borders. Did you realize, Ted, that some of the largest percentage of those crossing the border in the last year have been Chinese men of military age? This should scare everybody. And if you can't get off the vote, hunters, if you can't go vote, gun owners, if you can't go vote, if you don't, churchgoers, if you can't find time to go vote, then all I have to say is if you don't vote, shut up. I'm sick of listening to you. It's time for you to make action, and right now is our time to get out and vote for Donald Trump.
When I really got a big mouth after I saw that the United States Marine Corps warriors were not allowed to have ammo protecting our U.S. embassy in Tehran in 1979, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I went, huh? So the United States government puts Marines in charge of security without ammo, and they have to obey jihadists. So can the firemen have access to water? So immediately I was so repulsed by that, because I've already been running into a bunch of dopers and hippies that were drooling and stumbling, pursuing the liability column in life. Here we are, the last final days before the November 5th election. I have always screamed from the mountaintop. And I also projected rather calmly and gentlemanly at times that worse than communism, worse than socialism, worse than Marxism, worse than the Democrat Party, worse than slavery is apathy. And I've always said, this gathering, whether it's a big Trump rally with 10, 20, 30,000 people, 50,000 people up in Grand Rapids, I said, this group doesn't matter. But if every one of you would inspire your family, your friends, your coworkers at church, at school, at the shooting range, at the deer camp, at the barbecue, at the bowling alley, at the golf course, you all must go forth and you must prod, you must shame, you must beg your fellow man to vote the quality of life issues, God, family, country, law, and order. So I've always earmarked, even as a dumb guitar player, that apathy, sitting out the experiment in self-government, not participating, that's the worst sin in the history of the world, because it has ushered in jihadists and Venezuelan gangs to rape and torch and murder us. Where are we? Just a couple weeks away. You're on the front lines. I'm on the front lines. I know where we're at. Yep. But Doug, your perspective. Doug Collins is our guest. He's got a great book. You got to get this book. This is a man. This is a wise man. This is a participant in the sacred experiment of self-government. What do you see on your front lines as a Georgia guy? I'm a Michigan, Texas guy, but I'm working Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Nevada. Yep. What's going on? The Clock and the Calendar by Doug Collins. What do you see happening in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, Ted, that's exactly what I'm like you. I'm not just in Georgia, which we've had a good start in Georgia, but we're not finished. And I think that's the part that I'm going to tell everybody. I don't care what polls say. Quit looking at polls. If you're not a professional pollster, quit worrying about polls. If you're not in the business of polls, quit worrying about polls. Your business is to take yourself, your family, and everybody that you can get to the polling place. And I think, and that is such an important role right now. And right now, look, for the next 12 to 13 days, the Harris campaign and everybody, they're going to lie about Donald Trump. They're going to throw every old story up about Donald Trump. They're going to have everything that they can because they have nothing to run on, Ted. Think about it. If you've got nothing to run on, if you've got no policies that people like, you've got no policies that they can make understand, and you've got a vice president who can't put together 2 or 3 sentences together without sounding like she's lost in the wilderness, then all they're going to do is they're going to point the finger and say, Orange man bad. They're going to say Trump bad. And the problem is we've got 4 years of knowing what it looks like under Donald Trump. 4 years.
Yes.
Even if you're listening out there today and you got friends who are not sure, just say, were you not better off 4 years ago? And this is where it gets down to the crux. But I'm going to say something that you brought up. Our founding fathers fought, bled, and died for our rights. Our members of military and others have fought for 200 plus years to do that. I went to Iraq. I've been there. And I'm tired of people not actively participating in their community. The founders never believed in an inconsequential or apathetic electorate. In fact, they said that if we ever get apathetic, we will be overthrown, because that's where they knew that it had to be a participatory government.
Doug, clock and calendar. I love you, buddy. Everybody have a great weekend. See you next week.